How's it going, everyone? David from dodmedia. I'm not going to bother with all the studio lighting today. Just kidding. That's a bit better. Today I want to tell you all about the Sigma 16mm f1.4 DC-DN contemporary lens for mirrorless cameras. So near the end of 2017, Sigma released this lens for their contemporary line, so the Lumix cameras, the Sony cameras, all of the mirrorless range basically. And what was interesting about it, similar to the 30mm which I had bought the previous year, is that it's a native E-mount lens, which means that you get all of the autofocus, you get all of the electronics directly through the camera. You don't have to use an adapter. And that was the one thing that really put me off using my Sigma Art Series lens on the Sony system, is that you had to go through an adapter, and the adapters are expensive, and even with the most expensive ones, it's just not all that reliable. For video anyway. And given that the a6500 is my main video tool, I wanted to use lenses that would actually allow me to benefit from the fantastic autofocus that the camera has to offer. And I was pretty happy with the 30mm. It was not the fastest autofocus, but it was pretty reliable, and it was a fantastic quality for such a tiny price bracket. And then they released the 16mm, and I thought, well, why not? Let's give it a shot. I was looking for something that was faster than the kit lens that's being filmed on right now, and that allowed me to just get a narrower depth of field so that I could actually use this in a slightly more artistic way, as well as letting so much more light in, so being able to use it in lower lighting situations without having to bump up the ISO. So I ordered the lens, I did an unboxing and a first impressions video which got some pretty positive responses, and then I thought I'm going to leave it a few months before I do any more kind of reviewing of this lens, because I really wanted to put it through its paces properly, test it out in vlogging situations, test it out in professional situations, to really get a sense of what the good and the bad of this lens was. And I've just got to say, before I start this review, if you shoot on an a6500, an a6300, an a6000, or even the a7 range in super 35mm mode, this lens is incredible. Alright, so first of all, design. This thing is solid. It's made of metal. This lens in comparison feels like a toy. I mean, you could beat someone with this if you wanted to. Not that you should. Don't beat someone with a lens. It's not good. Secondly, it's got a 67mm thread, which for me was really nice because some of my other lenses already have that 67mm thread, which means that the ND filters that I've invested in aren't gone to waste. I can actually use them on this lens as well. It's got a really nice smooth focus ring, and even though it is wire focus, it's got enough drag that it actually lets you do some very nice smooth focusing. If you've ever shot with a wire focus lens, which if you're on a mirrorless system is very likely, it can be so fiddly and just completely temperamental, and there's no regularity in being able to pull focus. However, with this lens, I actually find that doing fine-tune adjustments and pull focus, I actually rely on the autofocus for the pull focus now. I know, right? Crazy, relying entirely on autofocus. It's nuts. 10 years ago, wouldn't have dreamed of it. But it's nice and it's smooth and it's just rough enough to be able to actually pull that focus a little bit, do those fine-tune adjustments without the focus just going into infinity. Okay, down to image quality. Now, I primarily use this for video. I have shot some stills. In fact, a lot of the thumbnails that I've been using for my videos have been shot with this lens. And there is something a little bit strange, not strange, but just odd happening with this lens when I had it on the a6500, and it was something about the aesthetic of the picture that I just couldn't quite figure out. There was something not quite normal, and I realized when I saw someone else post about this online that this lens, being a 16mm f1.4 aperture lens, on an APS-C sensor, that is the equivalent to a 24mm f2.1 lens on a full frame camera. And that was exactly what was puzzling me, was that I was looking at my footage and thinking, this looks like it's full frame. This looks like it's been shot with a 24mm prime lens that's pretty fast, that's giving me a decent amount of fall off on the back, separation of subject and background, but it's on a crop sensor. And I really wasn't used to that because the widest lenses I've used typically open to like f2.8 on a crop sensor and on full frame. So to be able to shoot something that wide at that fast an aperture, it kind of felt like I was cheating somehow. Like I had an APS-C sensor, but I was getting a full frame look. And to prove this to you, to show you an example, I actually reached out to Sigma to ask them if they would be willing to lend me their fantastic 24mm f1.4 ART lens, which is a full frame lens, so that I could put it on my 6D and do a side-by-side of the a6500 and the 6D with the 24mm on it. And as you can probably deduce, Sigma, because they're awesome, lovely people, agreed to lend me the lens. So I'm going to put this on the a6500, the 24mm on the 6D, put them together, do a side-by-side comparison, and show you what I'm talking about. So here's the 6D with the 24mm f1.4 mounted on it, and I'm going to use this little dual bracket to put them side by side. There's going to be a slight difference in perspective, but I'm just going to have to deal with that. As you can see, the bokeh is just beautiful, the contrast is superb, the colors are lovely, and one of the big advantages this combo has over the 6D is that this is in 4K, it's filming in S-Log 2, it has image stabilization in the body, it's smaller, it's lighter, and all that whilst getting a similar field of view or similar focal length, and pretty similar depth of field. Now when it comes to autofocus, this thing has the best, the most responsive autofocus I've ever seen in any lens and camera combo. That's right, Canon. Sony wins. Canon are praised for having this groundbreaking dual CMOS sensor pixel, whatever they call it, autofocus thing. But this lens and the a6500 are just so responsive, it's insane. If I'm ever wanting to show you something like close up while I'm doing a tutorial or a review, I just put it in front of the camera and it just snaps to it nice and smoothly as well. It's not that kind of like truncated focus step. It's really just nice and buttery smooth, racks into focus, racks back to focus on me as soon as I move that item away. It's like it knows what I want it to focus on. So to conclude this review, I think this is a fantastic lens. It is a must-have lens if you're on a Sony system. If you're on a Lumix system like the GH4, GH5, GH5S, then because of the 2x crop factor, this would basically be the equivalent of a 32mm f2.8 prime lens, which on that little body without a speed booster, that's pretty nice. That's pretty impressive as well. You're probably not going to get that same kind of full frame look, but it's still going to be a really, really pretty picture to use. It's certainly my favorite lens for vlogging, for doing tutorials. The autofocus is just insane. The quality, the sharpness of it is just fantastic, even wide open at f1.4. And really, I couldn't be happier with it. It's not a maracas. Anyway, give this a thumbs up if you liked what you saw, hit that subscribe button to get more videos and reviews and tutorials from me at dodmedia. Leave a comment in the comments section if you have any questions, any comments about this lens. Do you use this lens? One day I'm gonna own the full ART series of lenses, especially since they're coming out natively for Sony mount. What? But right now, I need to bring this one back to Sigma. You wanna come along? Let's go. Today I want to tell you about the incredible... Oh Christ. That's embarrassing. I just dropped it there, so hopefully it's okay. The Sigma 16mm f1.4 DC-DN